Hey, welcome. You are listening to a 2019 Right on Con podcast, and this is Tara Kennedy from the Right on Con team. I'm thrilled to chat today with middle grade and picture book author Sally J. Pluck about big reveals, writing, and self-discovery. So I know there's a lot of talk about in writing about writing what you know, but given your interest in writing as a form of self-discovery, it sounds like you find it a good tool to maybe find things you don't know.
Hi, yes. Thanks for having me on, Tara. It's great to be here. And yes, this is a topic that really interests me a lot. Just in the process of writing, well, I guess I'm working on my third children's novel right now, and in my picture book work too, but mainly in writing longer fiction. It's amazing to me how the process works of self-discovery, of realizing and finding what really matters to you kind of through what you write in a couple of different and interesting ways. So, and there's a really personal story that kind of got me there. I don't know if you want me to get into that now, or if, what do you think, Tara? Or
Yeah, no,
I get,
go ahead.
okay, yeah. Um, I guess, yeah, maybe I should just start with what really made me get fascinated with how we find out who we are through what we write. And it was in the process of writing my first novel for kids, the middle grade novel called The Someday Birds, which is sort of, as I wrote it, I felt it was pretty much a gift to my three boys, my sons. We, as they were growing up, we would take them on all kinds of cross-country journeys, the typical Griswold family vacation that you take with your kids to show them the country and show them the world. And we went out west to Yellowstone, and we went east to Colonial Williamsburg one year. And it was really tough on my middle son, who's autistic, and my life was so much wrapped around him growing up to kind of help him adapt to things and learn about the world and feel more at ease about the world. That when it came time for me to kind of quit my more business freelance and dedicate myself to writing my first book, I knew that's what I wanted it to be um, um, about him and the experience of raising my boys and what it feels like to live in that world and live in that skin. And so I started writing this story about Charlie, a totally fictional story. It wasn't really my kids at all, but I settled upon this main character named Charlie, who was 12 and who really loved reading and writing and art, and he loved birds and drawing birds, but he loved being indoors and drawing them in from the safe comfort of his own home and not having to go out into the wild, crazy world and get dirty and messy. But he's forced on this road trip. I relied on the road trips that I did with my kids. And as I was writing that story and writing about Charlie, I started to get really triggered about my own childhood and my own upbringing. And I started to realize that Charlie's voice was not based on my sons at all. He was based on me. I was writing my own authentic childhood voice about my own fears and my own experience of the world and my own anxiety and sensory issues. And it freaked me out so much. I ended up in therapy, and with a therapist actually suggesting I get autism testing myself. And I ended up with an autism diagnosis as a result of writing The Someday Birds, which was absolutely mind-blowing. One of the typical head explosion, it really was an amazing experience for me to realize how much of my own experience of the world I'd tucked away and then pretended and told myself was just fiction, until it hit me on the head that, no, I'm reaching a deeper truth for myself. And it's been wonderful. That's been incredible for me. Revelatory in really good ways. And it's helped me reach out to kids and be more authentic about what really matters to me and what I'm talking to them about. And neurodiversity matters a lot to me, and honoring and respecting each other's really differently operating brains. that's something that really matters to me. And knowing that this is coming from me deep inside has really been an incredible gift and change. When I talk to school kids across the country about my books, I'm able to talk about that now personally. So that's been an incredible gift. But more generally, it's just made me realize, how deeply theme is connected to our own hearts and what we care about, and how, whether we like it or not, we are going to come out in the fiction that we write. We just are,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So do you think that there are intentional things that you can do to try and focus your writing for self-discovery, or is it more being open to it, or both, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's exactly both things. I think there's two ways that this comes into play, about thinking about writing and self-discovery, and I'm really interested in them both, and I think they're both super important. I mean, first is like engaging in the type of writing that's a deliberate self-reflective act. And even that breaks down into a few different categories, I think. I mean, there's journaling, writing your morning pages, or written meditations, and just that self-reflective act that we do every day. If any of you read, I forget her first name now, Cameron's,
Was it Julia Cameron?
Yeah, Julia Cameron, thank you. The Artist's Way, with the morning pages, where you just let it flow. You just let it out, and it's sort of like throat clearing spiritually for you for the day, and then you get on with your regular writing. I mean, that can be really, really helpful. But there's also, I think, meta journals if you're writing on a writing project. To consider a meta journal, like writing about your writing. Just sort of, I've been keeping one for every project and finding it super helpful. I'll like sketch in it, I'll jot down ideas, or like just high level thematic thoughts about what I'm trying to say, why I care about the story, how it seems to be going. What plot problems are cropping up, or just lists of potential names for characters, or doodles, or just whatever ideas or brainstorming along the way. Even if like, oh, today the writing it really sucked, or the next day, oh, I got this good idea, and just to have it like a meta journal, a place to record that, is super helpful. I have found it's really helped me uncover stuff. There's also, just another word on like a theme. Like, we're always told as writers that we need to start with the question, what does your character want? And that's such a lovely and a beautiful question to ask. But I think that there's this direct correlation between what your character wants and what issues you care about as the author. And I'm feeling like it's, for me, what my character wants, with Charlie, for instance, in the Sunday Birds, what I knew that he wanted and needed was to learn how to feel more at ease in the world. It was what I wanted for my own son. It was, it was what I wanted for me, I guess. I'm not even realizing it, but that was sort of like my theme, like how to be more at ease in this totally inscrutable world. And it's what my character wants because it's what I wanted too. So theme is like so connected with what matters to our own hearts, the issues that matter to us so much. And theme is like the key to creating a really meaningful story. It's the most important part, I think, is really realizing everything will fall into place structurally so much better too. And even your characterizations, they seem to fall into place so much better if you know that one main question. What really matters? What are you really, not just what does your character want, but what do you want? What are you trying to say? Really trying to say to the world, trying to say to kids, and really think about it, or journal about it. That's, I think, it just makes things much more easy, and it leads you to really interesting self-discovery as well. But and that's all talking about all of this stuff, like the meta journals and the journaling and the morning pages and all that kind of stuff, or whatever you want to do. It's all that intentional self-discovery. You're excavating, like that Adrienne Rich quote about, I went into the cave, or I forget what it is, just excavating, doing the deep dive into finding the treasure of what it is you're looking for. But there's that unintentional self-revelation too. Like my story about how writing my first book led me into like therapy and trying to figure out who I was. And it's the whole idea of like, no matter what you write, it's going to reveal something to you and about you to others. I mean, it cannot be helped. You are the creative choices you make, and your plot choices, and the worlds, and the characters. They're all going to be self-reflective of your life. And you can start to see the patterns in there, like it or not, which is really an interesting thing. So, um, so I was on a panel like at a conference last year. I think it was the Pasadena Lit Fest, and the moderator was Dana Middleton. She was like so good. She was the best moderator, and she asked the most amazing questions. And one of them, she asked me personally, like, why in everything that I've written is the father kind of a distant figure? And I'm like, what? Is that true? I went back and I thought about my books and was like, wow, it is true. I've always made like the father be off on a business trip, or, you know, everybody's like, oh, you know, but dad's not available. What a bummer. And, you know, Charlie's dad is in the hospital across the country, Stanley, and Stanley will probably be fine. His dad is living overseas. And in my work in progress, the father figure is like traveling on business all the time. And the story opens with him packing a suitcase. I never even realized it. You know, and I grew up with a dad that was really distant and was never around. I just never realized why until I thought about it. You know? So that's just like another example of how, like it or not, it's like this unintentional self-discovery can come just through your act of writing. It's going to come out. It's just amazing. I don't know if, yeah, it's, anyway, so I've been rambling for a really long time. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, it's all great stuff. So to tag into something you said is a little earlier about, so what if the journaling or the fiction writing reveals something you're not as sure that you like about yourself? What do you, I know you mentioned you ended up in therapy, and that might obviously be one choice, but what processes and procedures might you want to have in place for handling that?
Well, that's why I think the meta journal is super helpful for those kinds of things. To just really explore that idea some more and see what it is, and and push on that, or talking to a friend or talking it through. I think the one thing I found is the more honest you can be with yourself and with everyone else around, the easier these things get. And I think sometimes for us, it's that whole like really great Mr. Rogers quote that he has once about anything mentionable is manageable. And if you can mention things, isn't that the most awesome quote? I love
that's great.
I love that. It's like whatever is human is mentionable. If we can mention it, we can manage it. And it's so true. So oftentimes I think maybe we approach fiction even because we are thinking, oh, I have this idea, or I have this issue and I want to talk about it, but I'll hide it. I'll dress it up in fancy fictional clothing and I'll pretend that it belongs to some other story. And that way I can look at what's mine in a way that's safe for me. And maybe a lot of us do that without realizing, without getting like too pop psyche about all of this. But, I'm just observing and finding that it's true for me. And I suspect that it's true for others as well. But then the truth of it comes and it sort of hits you. And if you're able to be honest about it and to really mention it honestly and talk about it, even if you don't like it, just to be able to talk about that, then it can be helpful.
No, that's great. And then sort of the flip side is that, do you think that awareness, so as an example, when the moderator pointed out to you that you were creating distant father figures for your characters, did it help you sort of realize things for yourself?
Yeah, it totally did. I guess dealing with that, you can flip it around too and say, yeah, I guess I'm really grieving that more than I thought. about my own, childhood and stuff, or that was just a fact of my childhood. That's my view of childhood. So when I'm representing my fiction for children, it's just coming out. But how can that be a strength too? It's a strength because it creates kids that are independent and powerful. And there's some overcoming there, and learning to be independent, and gaining control of your own power. So that's the flip side of that too, and giving kids agency, because, like it or not, there aren't as many authority figures there. So I don't know. Yeah.
Now you your two, we have 3 books out now, and they are all contemporary. Do you think it is a little bit easier or harder to explore, find these things when you're doing contemporary, or does that just happen to be the stories that you wrote, and probably this would apply for other genres?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. It wasn't really a conscious decision to write in contemporary realism, but yeah, I guess that might be. I'm not sure if it's easier or harder in different genres. My work in progress is not, however, it's my writing into a sci-fi novel set in the near future. So in a way, it's making it easy to treat some of these things, and in a way, it's making it more difficult. But basically, stories are about human emotions and reactions between characters, and what we walk away is that whether that sense of emotion and humanity feels authentic to us and moves us. And that can happen anywhere, at any time period, in any genre. So I don't think it matters.
And I also know that you said you really like editing, cleaning up those first drafts. Is that something that you think about in the editing process, as far as how to, either dial up or dial back so that your reader can pick up on the themes you were working on?
Yeah, I'm really hung up on theme. For me, it really seems to be the magic key that unlocks the story for me if I think about it. So I really do try to revise thinking about the theme. Does this contribute to, what is the saying? What is this character saying, or what is the scene saying that adds a little bit of resonance to my overarching idea, of what I'm trying to deal with? Does it add or doesn't it add? So I do revise for that, for sure, to try to fine tune that. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And then do you also sometimes find that you have to sort of tone it down, is maybe not the right word, but I know there's always the concern that we're getting a little bit too much, when an issue is important to us, we can get a little too soapboxy about it in our first drafts, or maybe that's just me, but
oh yeah. Anything that doesn't seem natural or doesn't flow right, and yeah, you want it to be first and above everything else a wonderful, rollicking, good ride of a story that's really fun for kids to read. It's not a lesson couched in story language. It's a story. So it has to be that before everything. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess by theme, I don't mean like a moral or something that's going to be preached. I just mean like some kind of idea that you're exploring. Like for me, I guess the theme is just, how do we overcome fears in the world? How do we overcome our anxieties? How do we learn how to feel more at ease? And for me, or how do you find your place as an outsider? How do you strive to find your place, and what does that look like when you have found your place? How does that feel? On that level of kind of thinking about it, but like not a moral or anything. So.
and then as a reader, are there books that you've read that you felt were just great aha moments, or helped you as a reader find something?
Oh gosh, there are so many amazing books that I've been trying to do a lot of Actually, I've been doing I'm trying to like vary up my reading lately. I love middle grade so much that I'm like zoom right to the middle grade section all the time when I go to bookstores and libraries. But lately, I've been trying to like feed in some other stuff too. Um, and also, being a member of the neurodiversity movement, and really championing people whose brains work a little differently. I wanted to give a shout out maybe to a few of those books too. There's some wonderful new ones out, and they're mainly YA. Interestingly, Rachel Lucas has a book called State of Grace that does an incredible job getting inside the mind of an autistic teenage girl, contemporary realism, and there's a book by Hilary Rail called Kids Like Us, and it's about an autistic teenage boy that goes overseas and finds his way. He's that thematically is like that, the outsider finding his way, finding your first friends. There's a book that I absolutely love in YA by Amy Giles called That Night that just came out, and it talks about kids after a school shooting. Two teenagers that manage. It's not about the shooting at all. It's about healing. It's a book about healing and processing PTSD. I just thought it was really timely and really wonderful. In middle grade, books that I've absolutely loved have been like, and middle grade is such a large category too, from chapter books from really, beginning readers basically all the way through quite sophisticated upper middle grade books that really are more like general audience books that anyone could read. Ones that I think are especially great is I just love anything by Leslie Connor. I love her. Alana K. Arnold, I love her books, especially her Boy Called Bat books for an autistic protagonist. Anne Ursu's The Real Boy is amazing. And like any book that shows like this kindness, that has that sense of exquisite kindness to it, like Leslie Connor or Kate DiCamillo or Catherine Applegate. It just has this quality, this human quality I love. But I've also been reading in terms of self-discovery a little bit, if you're interested. Any of Brene Brown's works are amazing. There's a book by someone called Hal Stone. This is an older book, but I found it amazing, called Embracing Your Inner Critic. And for some reason, this book unlocked a lot for me creatively. Let's see. There's a blog by Austin Kleon. I don't know if you guys know him. His last name is Kleon, and he's got a great blog on creativity and productivity, and like plumbing your depths and getting inspired and excited about stuff. There's a wonderful book called Wabi Sabi for artists, designers, poets, and philosophers. And it's by Leonard Koren, Koren. I've had that book for years, and I was just rereading it the other day and just absolutely loving it. So, I don't know. So, yeah, just a bunch of different stuff. I'm reading a lot of sort of like future shock books these days, too. About future tech and stuff. It's been really fascinating. So,
and then, do you have any moments you wanted to share about times when readers have talked to you about great discoveries or, moments of being seen in your books?
Oh my goodness. I had so many. This is the reason why it's so incredible to talk to kids or to get letters or cards from kids where we've made a connection and they see themselves in the story. And I have a few students, a few kids that one in Canada and one in Maryland, and they have been writing me, and one in California. They've been writing me for years and like sending me their poems and things like that. These connections are everything in the world. It's just incredible. And the kids, after a school visit, the kids that are clearly on the spectrum that stay afterwards to talk about birds, or to talk very honestly and frankly about fears and things, it's just amazing. I think the more honest you are with kids, that the more incredible honesty you get back from them. I've had these, I talked to this one group, and I spoke really honestly about everything that I've just been talking to you about right now, Tara. And then we had lunch after the big, the the visit. You know, we had a lunch with just like maybe about 12 kids. They were they just blew me away. The sophistication of their thought, their awareness of the world, their experiences of the world. You know, one was afraid for, you know, why don't you, had moved here from London and had relatives in Syria. I was like, why doesn't America talk more about what's happening to the poor refugees in Syria? This is a 12-year-old, you know, and another girl had an incarcerated relative that she was really fearful about. You know, another was a refugee from Haiti, her family, you know, and had concerns and issues. And they spoke so vividly about these things. I mean, kids these days are dealing with really, really intense issues. And to be able to speak honestly about who they are, and these are parts of their life experience, and to be able to articulate that, that's incredible. And to say to those kids, I honor everything you're saying. You should write your story. Everybody should feel that they should write their story, that they're worth enough. Their story and their life experience is worthy and important and deserving of honor and respect. And we all should be writing who we are.
Yeah, that's so great. And so I know you said your next project is more sci-fi future shock. Are you able to talk a little bit more about that?
It is. It's just still a really under wraps work in project, but it's about a girl. For the first time, my main character is a girl. And for me, that's kind of like a self discovery win. You know, it's like, oh, I finally feel brave enough that I'm going to get a little closer to myself. And yeah, it's a finished draft right now, and I'm working on my revising. I could revise. I'm like a revising freak. I could revise until the cows come home. I love to do it. I'm never satisfied. It was like that old quote by I forget who, Picasso or Valery. Someone said, "A work of art is never finished. It is only abandoned." And I'm kind of like that. You have to like tear it out of my hands because I will just keep scribbling and changing. So I'm still scribbling and changing, but it's coming together and I'm excited about it. And yeah, it's just about a world. It's about not fitting in and finding your way in a very different world. And it's also confronting issues of global warming. What's the world going to look like, you know, in 50, 100 years? And how are kids going to be resilient through that?
Oh, it's so fascinating. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us about that today. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for the chance to talk to you guys.
You're welcome.